What is going on, my YouTube family? Welcome back to the Gaming Brigade, and today's build video, my friends, is a follow-up to one I put out a few weeks back, as one of the pieces of gear in that build was Coyote's Mask. And for those of you that do not have that, you reached out to the channel asking if I could put together a different variation, so that's exactly what I'm bringing you today. If you happen to be new here, feel free to hit that subscribe or join button. If you enjoyed this, you could hit that like button as well. And you know we have giveaways, but I will save that information until the end of the video. I want to jump right into the build breakdown, and we're going to start with the specialization. So I'm using Gunner, and the main reason for that is because it does give me the ability to use the Banshee Pulse, which I do with this build. You also get some armor on kill, a reload speed increase, a rate of fire increase as well. And remember, regardless of which specialization you choose, always make sure you have the proper weapons activated in your weapon skill tree. That way you're getting that 15% weapon damage bonus regardless of which one you're using. Now obviously the primary for my build is St. Elmo's, and I know for many of you out there, including myself, this has become one of your favorite assault rifles in the game, not only because of its talent, where shooting an enemy with this weapon will give you 1 stack, and at 100 stacks the next magazine will be filled with shock ammo. But as we move down to the mods, you can see we're getting that 20% crit hit damage, 30 extra rounds, 20% weapon handling, and 20% crit hit chance as well. That really helps set this weapon apart, and in my opinion makes it an absolute monster. My secondary weapon for this build is the Dark Winter SMG because of the talent Perfect Killer, where killing an enemy with a critical hit grants 50% crit hit damage for 10 seconds. Now if you don't have this, you can use any SMG in its place and use the regular talent Killer. That can still get the job done. Now we're going to make our way to the gear. You can see I'm running 4 Negotiators, as well as 1 Grupo and 1 Overlord. Now starting with the mask, it's the first of 4 pieces of that Negotiators gear set. We're running all 4 so we get all of the gear set bonuses, and they read as follows: 2 pieces 15% crit hit chance, 3 pieces 20% crit hit damage, and 4 pieces hostile negotiations, where a critical hit marks enemies for 20 seconds up to 3 marks total. Whenever you critically hit a marked enemy, all other marked enemies take 60% of the damage dealt, and not only that, whenever a marked enemy dies, you're going to gain 2% crit hit damage, stacking up to 20 times or until the combat ends, and on all of these pieces. I'm trying to stack crit hit chance and crit hit damage. I will go over a breakdown at the end of the video. Now we move to the body armor. It's the 1 piece of Grupo, which is going to give us that extra 15% crit hit damage bonus. Now that middle attribute is weapon handling. I'd much rather that be crit hit chance, but again, what are you going to do? I mean, you get what you get in this game, and that's it, right? So the talent I'm using is Obliterate, where crit hits are going to increase weapon damage by 1% for 5 seconds. It stacks up to 25 times. Next we have the holster, which is the second piece of the Negotiators gear set, and that takes us to the knee pads. Now as I mentioned earlier, for those of you that do not have Coyote's Mask, this is a great variation of that build, and we're using this because you're going to get that 8% damage to targets out of cover. That is a monster of an attribute. And one thing I want to point out is on a few of these pieces I've changed my core attribute to armor, and the reason for that is I like sitting anywhere between 1.1 and 1.3 million base armor. However, as most of you know by now, any single build video you see out there is just a template. Always make sure you take your time, make the build your own. You may want a little more armor, maybe a little bit less. Just try out different variations, see which one works best for you. Next we have the, what do we have next? The gloves. And these are the third piece of the Negotiators gear set. Again, stacking that crit hit chance or damage, and that piece I'm using damage. And finally we have the backpack. Now because we're using the Negotiators bag, we also get the talent critical measures, which increases hostile negotiations damage to additional marked enemies from 60% to 100%, which is obviously a very big difference, and it helps you just shred enemies in front of you left and right. I'll go over a few things in a moment. Now when we make our way to the skills, and this is where you do have multiple options, I happen to be using the Crusader shield just in case, and I'm also using the Banshee Pulse, which you have access to because we are using the Gunner specialization. But once again, if you happen to have any other skills you prefer using, you can use anything you want with this. Now moving on to the numbers, you can see I'm sitting at 57% crit hit chance and 184 crit hit damage. And remember, those numbers are going to be based on a few factors, obviously the gear I have equipped, but also the fact that I have a watch at shade level 1000. I sincerely hope you enjoy this build, and as always, if you have questions, comments, or feedback, please let me know. Most of you know that one of my favorite aspects about putting these build videos together is the family that we have here at the channel, so if you happen to have any tips or tricks you want to pass along to new and returning players, please let me know, as the main goal is to help out as many people as we can. With all that being said, my friends, I'm going to start to wrap this up. Now, as I mentioned at the beginning of this thing, we are currently currently having a giveaway for an Xbox Series S. We're actually giving away 2, and all you need to do to enter is either subscribe here or follow on Twitter, and the winners will be announced October 1st of this year. On that note, I want to take a moment and thank you all for your incredible support of this channel, and remind you, if you happen to be new here, feel free to hit that subscribe or join button. If you enjoyed this, you could hit that like button as well, but most importantly, take care of yourselves, be kind to each other, and we will talk to you soon. Thanks again, everyone.
Shield.
Frag deployed!
According to the schematics Isaac pulled upstairs, we can lock that tunnel door from their control center. That should keep them from being able to transport those mortars loaded with That should keep them from getting more of those mortars. Go on and head back up. The team from the campus has taken position inside the memorial.